Sixers. 10, 9, 8, 76ers.
What's going on, everyone? This is UK 76ers. My name is Ben Glasspool, and the Philadelphia 76ers have just about won this evening, winning 141 points to 136 against the Washington Wizards. Now, this game finished about, I want to say 11 hours ago, and my heart's still going. That was just a mental game. If you're neutral and you watch that game, you must have been absolutely loving life. If you're a Sixer fan, I'm sure like myself, you were sweating towards the end. You were just nervous. This was typical Sixers. It looked like we're going to bottle it, but we just about hung in there and just about got the W. Now, there's a lot of good, but there's a lot of bad as well, and that's particularly emanating from the defensive end, which I was not happy with at all. I mean, you see these high-scoring games, and you're like, oh, you know, Embiid got 38, and don't get me wrong, he was absolutely fantastic, and Simmons got his. But for me, it's the defensive side of things really spoiled what could have been a really, really great game all round for the Sixers. So we'll dive straight right in, and we'll start off with the first quarter. It was, where else do you start with Seth Curry? You know, every video I talk about how good a pickup he is. He started 5 from 5 from 3, ended up getting another one in the next quarter, so he was 6 from 6 from 3 towards the start, and everything he takes just seems to drop. And it's not as if he's playing out of his skin, he's playing crazy, shooting crazy shots. This is all within the flow of the offense, and it's all shots he should be taking and should be making, and he's making them. I think before the game he was at 54% from 3. Obviously that's probably gone up a bit now, but long may it continue. He's been fantastic for us. And it's all coming from this, you know, Embiid gets double teamed. Embiid can now pass the ball out and can pass it to Seth. Or Ben drives, he kicks it out to Seth, and he hits the 3. It's as easy as that. Danny Green also got 5 from 8 from 3 this evening. One of which was another crazy one at the end of the half. I mean, he seems to be scoring crazy 3s at the end of the half. Nice steal, Danny Green gets it, goes behind the arc, drains it, end of the half, we finish on a high. But, you know, as good as this game was, and this game can be defined by the Joel Embiid side of things, or the Ben Simmons side of things, or Seth Curry, what will likely take the headlines is Bradley Beal. And he had a fantastic game. Sometimes you just got to sit back and just applaud what you're seeing, even if it's against your team. You've got 60 points, 20 field goals out of 35. I want to say around 12 or 13 from the free throw line. He was electric. Everything he shot seemed to just go in. It was one of those moods where you just couldn't do anything. You know, there's a step back that he had over Joel that looked an awful lot like a 3, but was just about a 2-pointer. You know, whenever he pulled up, he just hit it. You know, he was getting offensive boards, and then he was finishing amongst these giants like Embiid. And they were just sort of wondering, what can we do? Admittedly, the obvious thing to do was to stick Ben Simmons on him. And this is one of the issues I had with the game, is that I can understand if you want, Doc Rivers said up post-game that he wanted Ben Simmons as his roamer. And, you know, fair enough, Ben Simmons does his job as a defender fantastically well, and obviously he was doing it as a roamer well, but there comes a point where you see someone like Bradley Beal and you're just like, no, we need to stick our best defender on him, and our best defender is Ben Simmons. I get having Simmons on Westbrook because, you know, Westbrook is quick and athletic, and Ben Simmons can match that. But Bradley, if Westbrook plays well, we still win this game handsomely. Bradley Beal plays well, that's when it gets a bit nervy for us. You need to shut him down and shut him down ASAP, but we never did that. We had Danny Green on him, and look, Danny Green is a good defender, but there just comes a point where you need more. And we were letting Bradley Beal get what he wanted. And he was getting his points, he was getting them everywhere. He was getting them at the line, he was getting them at the rack, and he was getting them from behind the arc. But what was annoying me was our pick and roll defense. And ironically, in our last game, I talked about how good our defense has been. Look, we were number 1 defensive rating. We are still a good defensive team, but there are a few little frailties that keep showing themselves, and they need to be addressed. And the pick and roll defense was horrible in this game. And it wasn't just how Bradley Beal got his points. He turned in the corner and he seemed to just get the shot he wanted. But I know it was Davis Bertans, who notoriously scores a hell of a lot of points against the Sixers. He would round the corner off a pick and roll, off a screen set, and then he'd just get his shot up, and it was easy as that. Someone's got to step up. We can't keep sagging off, and it's not sagging off to the same extent that we had with Brett Brown, because we were called a pick and roll defense with him was dire. I recall, we played the Hawks and Trae Young just go around the screener and no one was there, would sag off floater, and he just gets what he wants. It's not to that same level of bad, but it's still got some issues. We need a guy stepping up and ensuring that these shots can't happen. And it's not too much to ask. And I'm sure Doc will go back and look at it. Similarly with Doc, again, he didn't have his best game as the head coach. I didn't like some of the adjustments he made. Again, towards the end of the third quarter, for example, Bradley Beal still on the court, and the only way the Wizards are going to get back into this game is if Bradley Beal scores points. And Bradley Beal can only get the Wizards back into this game when he scores points and when we don't. He can go off all he likes, but if we're matching his points for our own points, if Seth Curry's then getting a bucket, or if Ben Simmons, or if Joel Embiid, or whoever's getting a bucket, then whatever he's doing doesn't really matter that much. But we went to our bench unit plus Tobias Harris, so it was a unit of Maxey, Matisse, Shake, Tobias, and Dwight. And I've sung the praises of all of those people this season so far, and they did have their good moments in this game. But I was nervous because essentially what you're telling me is that for this 3-minute stretch at the end of the third quarter, these 5 people are going to match the output of Bradley Beal, and they didn't. And if they didn't, that means the Washington Wizards can catch up, and they did. I think they were within 10 by the end of the third. And that's on Doc. And I've said before, I want one of our big stars on the on the court at all times. And I'm happy to have Tobias Harris be one of those stars, because he's proving that he can do stuff for this team, that he can get us points when Ben and Joel aren't on the court. But this was a very precarious position that we were in, and for me, you got to have one of Ben and Joel on there, and we didn't, and that's what let them back into the game. Dwight was getting a bit unlucky with the calls he was getting. There was one when Robin Lopez just sold it fantastically. Dwight gets into a bit of foul trouble. He also lost his head a bit, another technical foul. And it just looked for all the world that the Wizards were going to find their way back into this game and end up just stealing it in the last minute. They did find their way, but thank goodness for Joel Embiid. We've talked about how good he's been this season, and I did mention the Charlotte game. Look, he didn't quite get the points that we expect from him, but he's still contributing in ways which contribute to winning. And I believe it's called the hockey line assist or something like that. Look, I'm not an ice hockey buff, but it's essentially the assist to the assist, and he's getting a hell of a lot of those just coming out of double teams and passing excellently. I mentioned again in a previous video, the turnovers are down when he has the ball, and that's partly because he knows where to pass the ball now. It's as easy as that, and now when he knows where to pass the ball, that means we can get to our 3-point shooters and they can drain their shots. But he has a gravity to him which attracts double teams, and people are then finding their spaces. But I think another issue was that he needs to figure out, okay, these double teams are coming thick and fast, and they're going to come almost every single time I've got the ball in my hand. How do I get my points? And it's simple. He gets the positions he wants to be in, and he gets there early. And he gets there early because he's now got the fitness, and he's boosted his fitness clearly. He's got leaner over the off-season so that he can travel up the court quickly after defending on one end, get his position, get in a low post, high post sort of area, so that he can find his shots, be those mid-range, be it a pump fake into the line, or just drawing a foul. And today was a prime example of that. He had 38 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. Now, we've talked about how at the moment he's playing like an MVP candidate, but we've got to start talking about how he's playing as a Defensive Player of the Year candidate also. This guy's playing out of his skin. The steals he's getting, and they're not fluky steals, they're really good quick hand steals that lead to fast break opportunities where people like Ben Simmons, where Seth Curry can find his spots and they can get their points. And this is all emanating from Joel Embiid. I remember one time, like I mentioned, Bradley Beal's been going off all game, and he was getting a bit of momentum again. Joel blocks him at the rim, and stuff like that makes a huge difference to momentum. It completely swings the game. Basketball is a game of momentum. It's a game of runs. If you stop that just from one play, one highlight play, then that can win you the game. Joel Embiid won us this game. He won us this game. Look, Ben Simmons played fantastically well. Everyone was in double figures. All our starting 5 were in double figures again, but there's one person who won us this game, and that was Joel Embiid. He gets to the line 13 times, drains all 13 free throws. All 13. He's a 7'2" center, and he's draining all his free throws like he's a guard. This is unheard of. This is incredible. And I did doubt his free throws. he seemed to be missing a few. Some were coming a bit short in previous games. I was like, okay, maybe he's lost his touch a bit just on that part. Look, he was still playing fantastically well, but he showed me this evening that couldn't be further from the truth. He is absolutely playing out of his skin. This is the best version of Joel Embiid we've seen. And the responses will be, oh, but he hasn't played Jokic, he hasn't played Davis, he hasn't played Gasol, he hasn't played whoever you think will stop Embiid, Horford even, if you want to say that. I don't care. All he can do is play against the teams he's playing against. And the ones that are put in front of him, he's brushing them aside with ease. It's as simple as that. I don't know why I need to say on the Joel Embiid side of things. It's Ben Simmons. In the last game, I mentioned how he looked more aggressive, and that was the perfect balance for me, and he did it again today. He had 17 points, and he did get he's 3 of 6 on the free throw line. That's not what we want, because we want him to be able to shoot from the free throw line, because we've seen at the death he's going to have to drain some free throws, otherwise people target him. But he did what he needed to do. 12 assists as well. Another fantastic game for him. Finishing at the rim was better, and look, I said I wanted to be more aggressive, but the reason that frustrated me in the last game is that he was aggressive, but his finishing was a bit flimsy. When you're 6'10" and you have all that speed and all that power, you got to go strong, and he didn't always go strong. And he still isn't really doing that now, but at least they're going in. I would still like him to go with a bit more aggression, but at least his shots are dropping. The first 3 field goals for the Sixers were all Ben Simmons driving to the hoop. So he got 6 points in about 6 minutes, and that's pretty crazy when you think about other games he was getting 6 at the half. So perhaps there's someone's had a word in his ear, and that's changing about. And I'm hoping this maintains itself, because he can still do his facilitating, and he can still get his points. It's not a trade-off. You can do both. They're not mutually exclusive. He can get his assists and he can get his points, and he did that today. So on the Wizards side of things, we were led off. And we were led off by a certain Russell Westbrook. Now, Westbrook's a funny one. I'm not too high on the guy. Look, I think he's entertaining to watch. He's really fun to watch. Whenever I watch Wizards games, I watch him, partly because I like watching Russell Westbrook, because he brings that intensity, and he'll do something crazy, and he'll fill the stat sheet, and it's just fun to watch. But what sticks in my mind, and I alluded to before, basketball's a game of momentum, and one little error or one little piece of brilliance can really change the complexion of the game. And it was early in the shot clock. I want to say it's about a 5-point difference in the fourth, less than half the quarter left, and he just chucks up a 3, bricks it, and then we go up the other end and score. It might even been an and one. And Russell Westbrook that's all we needed to change the momentum, to swing the game in our favour. He let us off, and as for all the positives there is with Russell Westbrook, he doesn't seem to realise yet that he can't shoot the ball well enough to keep defences honest. Yeah, he drained a couple 2s and he drained a couple 3s, but you're always going to live with him shooting. You're happy to live with him. And you saw how Ben Simmons defended him. He never bought any pump fakes towards the tail end of the game, because he's just like, look, if you want to take the shot, you can take the shot. If it goes in, fair enough. But again, Al Abdenabi, he alluded to, well, it's not too bad if Russell drains the shot, because he then thinks later down the line, oh, I made that shot earlier so I could do it again, and then he'll probably miss. So he bailed us out massively. Thomas Bryant started falling for everything that Embiid gave him, and he bailed us out in his own way, because Embiid just had his way with him. He started getting all the fouls he wanted. He was just moving Thomas Bryant. He was buying every pump fake. Davis Bertans for all his good 3-point shooting. The guy can't defend, and we got so many free throws just because of his inability to defend. And the Washington Wizards' general inability to defend. They're one of the worst defenses for a reason, because they can't defend. And I feel sorry for them for that. One bright spot they did have, Ish Smith off the bench. It was incredible for them. He came off the bench and he caused us a hell of a lot of issues. There's no coincidence that when the Wizards' comeback started, Ish Smith started playing a hell of a lot more minutes. He was getting steals. He's been a nuisance. He had an amazing finish at the rim, whilst with Ben Simmons, who's only 10 inches, almost a foot taller than him. He played fantastically well. So all credit to Ish Smith, all credit to Bradley Beal. They didn't out wrong. It's just the supporting cast they have just sort of let them down a bit. So let's talk about how crazy this game was when we talk from a point side of things. The second quarter was the highest point scoring quarter in NBA history. 92 points were scored. It finished with the Sixers scoring 49 points and the Wizards scoring 43. That's unheard of. The Sixers had 100 points after 30 minutes of basketball, so halfway through the third quarter. It was unfathomable. 82 points at the half. It's great to see the Sixers offense working so well, and it is also a bit of an indictment on that Wizards defense. I mean, I've already listed through how they let themselves down on that front, but this was such a fun thing to see. And that's all we've wanted as Sixers fans: fun basketball, an establishment of an identity. And I'll always hark back to this. This was crucial for me before the season started. What I wanted from the season was, can we establish an identity? Can we play a consistent brand of basketball that is not only sustainable but betters our own players? We are getting that. Everyone seems to be a new version of themselves, a better version of themselves, and on both ends. Tobias on both ends, so much better. And Beal on both ends. It's not a crazy difference, but it's a marginal difference that's taken him to that next level. Similarly with Ben Simmons. Seth Curry's having a career year. He's averaging 17 points a game as what, our fourth option? That's crazy. It's unheard of. Danny Green's finding his feet, and he's getting rebounds and assists as well. Like on the sly, he's getting some good amount of points just without us noticing. He's doing fantastically well. A few steals as well for him. Shake Milton, he's averaging just under 13 points. He looked today, I want to say around the second quarter, he looked very similar to the Shake that we saw against the LA Clippers. It was only a small sample size because he had that little run, and then obviously because he's coming in and out of the bench, he's not going to be able to maintain it and heat checks, etc., etc. But there's a little window where I thought this reminds me so much of Shake against the Clippers, and there's no reason why he can't do stuff like that. Look, against the Clippers, he was shooting at an incredibly difficult rate, and you're not going to see that all the time. But tonight that was what Shake Milton can do, and people often sleep on him, but he is fantastic at what he does as a sixth man, and he's on one of the best contracts in the league. We've got him for on $1 million a year or so, and we've got him for another 2-3 years. That's fantastic. You've got to hold on to a contract like that unless a correct move comes along. Hint, hint, wink, wink. The Zach LaVine move that I've been so desperate to see, which I'm sure if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know all about that. But that's a story altogether. I may do a video on the Zach LaVine trade rumors and even the Kyle Lowry ones. That may be for another day, but we'll get there if we get there. Matisse Thybulle, again, he didn't hit his 3-point shots, but we know what he can do on the defensive end, and we saw it. In the dying embers of the game was all but wrapped up, but any sort of defensive hesitancy, and the Wizards could have come straight back into it. Doc showed his faith in Matisse, brought him on in the clutch minutes, and Matisse was on Bradley Beal, the guy who couldn't stop scoring all evening. Admittedly, he only got 2 points in the fourth, but you still backed him to get his. Put him on Matisse. Bradley Beal drives to the rack. Matisse gets a lovely block on him in the clutch, and that all but wrap things up. That would do wonders for his confidence. What it would do for his 3-point shot, I'm not too sure, because obviously it's not to do with his offensive capabilities. But that's just what he brings to the table. We got a crazy arsenal of options and so many weapons to throw at people, be that on both ends. And he's got a place in this team. Look, we know what he needs to tweak, and we know what he needs to improve. But we also know what he can do right now, and he can help this team win basketball games. It's as simple as that. And under the tutelage of Danny Green especially, because Danny Green is that quintessential 3-and-D wing. And look, I don't ever expect Matisse to be on the same sort of 3-point shooting clip as Danny Green, but if he could just show him the ropes a bit more, help him be a bit wiser on defense, because sometimes Matisse does jump into things and get a bit crazy with things. If Danny Green just show him just to calm himself, just do his defensive work, but at a bit more of a what's the word I'm looking for? Just a nicer rate, just not jumping into trying to get steals all the time, just keeping himself composed, and then making sure he doesn't get into foul trouble. That's crucial as well. But look, no, Matisse had a great game. That play alone was fantastic, and that's all we needed from the guy. Maxey had a quiet one. He had a nice little floater that went over, I want to say Robin Lopez, but he didn't quite have the points explosion that we saw the other day. But you got to give the kid time. I have no worries with the guy. I think perhaps it wasn't quite the right game for him, because when we did bring him on, that was when it got a bit nervy, so he didn't quite get to play with the freedom he wanted to, maybe. But no, he'll only get better, so there's nothing to worry about on that front. Next up tonight is the Brooklyn Nets, the KD-less Brooklyn Nets, and this is probably our biggest challenge of the season so far. So it'll be Kyrie, it'll be Karis LeVert, obviously Spencer Dinwiddie's injured, DeAndre Jordan, Jared Allen, Joe Harris, Taurean Prince, the usual suspects. it's a back-to-back, obviously, so we might still be, you know, a bit worse for wear, and it is a bit frustrating that we had to play Embiid and Harris and Simmons all those minutes just to get this game over the line in a game where it probably should have been done and dusted long before. But they're professional athletes, and we saw when we lost to Cleveland, they just came off the back of a double overtime the night before, and then they, you know, they blew us out. They're professional athletes, and we can't give them any excuses. I expect them to go out there with the same intensity. And to be quite frank, with KD's injury, with Dinwiddie's injury, we should probably be winning. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. Like I said, it's going to be a huge challenge, but we should still win this. And it'll be a real big test, and we should relish this test because we want to prove ourselves that no one's talking about us. No one on ESPN. I see, you know, I see on my, you know, the videos on the people I follow. No one on Fox. Not that you want to be talked about on Fox or ESPN, because you know what some of those journalists are like. They'll sensationalize a lot of stories, but no one's talking about the Sixers. A win tonight, and people will start taking us seriously. Too many people think, oh, they've played bad opponents. We got to show this evening that we are here for real, and we are here to stay. So it's the Nets tonight, Nuggets Saturday, then the Hawks, then the Miami Heat back-to-back. A nice little challenging run, but one we should be relishing. So that was the crazy Wizards game. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you all next time.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.